Hey, I've been reading Let's Not Meet for quite a while now and decided to post my own creepy encounter with a weird guy at a cinema. Side note, I'm 18. At the time I was 17 and my friends 15 and 16. That isn't very important anyways. So this story took place almost a year ago. It was a few days before Christmas break ended, so me and a few friends decided to go watch a movie. I believe it was Deadpool, but I don't really remember. It was going to be 2 guys and 3 girls, including me. Now the place where I live is not necessarily considered a safe place to hang out. However, I feel safe with other people, especially if it's with guys too. We all met up at the cinema and walked in. It was an afternoon show during the holidays, so it was quite full. As we walked in, I texted one of the guys that was supposed to come, who let me know that he wasn't able to make it as something came up. We however already bought a ticket for him, though that wasn't really a problem. We walked in and take our seats. A reminder, we're now only 4 people, 3 girls and 1 guy. I walk through and leave the seat that was originally for my other friend empty. Next to my right are 2 girls and the guy is next to them. I hope that makes sense. So the order is me, friend, friend, friend. So I sit on the outside basically, with seats to my left empty. As I turn around, I see a few guys from our school. As the lights turn off, I don't think anything of it, as a boy comes from the row above us and asks me to remove my bag and snacks from the seat that we paid for so he could sit right next to me. He actually just motioned for me to remove it and literally sat on my handbag, so I had to pull it out from underneath his butt. I'm not even kidding, at first I thought it was one of the guys from our school as I didn't see his face and the lights were turned off, so only the light from the screen lit up his frame. As we were watching the movie, I realized that it's an older man, maybe in his 30s or 40s. Whenever there was a joke in the movie, I heard him laugh, and for some reason I felt more uneasy the longer we were in there. I just got this weird vibe from him. I tried to move closer to my friend on the right, but for some reason he seemed to always be close to me. I had a Sprite bottle in the drink holder to my left, on his side, and it was open. I hadn't taken a sip yet because I felt too nervous to make a move. I'm silly, I know. However, at some point, when it was quiet during the movie, I heard a noise coming from his side, like something fell into liquid. I glanced over, and from the light off the screen, I saw that the Sprite had those bubbles on top. I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called. And I heard a fizzling afterwards. Now I probably jumped to a conclusion from this, but it was an odd situation. I thought that he might have put something into the Sprite, however I have no proof whatsoever, so this is just what I thought happened. I did not drink from the Sprite and left it there when we left the room. As we waited to get picked up, I told my friends about that and they all agreed that it was super fucking weird that he sat there, especially since it was our paid seat and not his for sure. He walked past us and stayed close for a very long time, even though he was obviously an adult and probably had a car. When we left, he walked over to a car and drove off into the other direction. I know this story might sound crazy because I'm just very paranoid, but I wanted to share it either way. So creepy cinema guy, please, let's not meet again. This one is actually fairly recent. Edited again. Since I saw some comments ask, I am a late 20s male, around 6'4" and around 180 pounds. I am sometimes too nice to my friends. I tend to do favors for my friends even when they seem pretty ridiculous, as long as it's not terribly out of my way. Most of the time it's, help, I'm drunk and I need a ride home. Well, one night, at like 1:30 a.m., I get the call. A very, very drunk friend of mine, Claire, is begging me to come pick her up and give her a ride home soon. The bar is closing soon, and she's too drunk to drive home. The bar she's at isn't too far from my house, about a 10 to 15 minute drive, but the issue is that she lives like 35 to 45 minutes on the other side of town. Claire has been extremely nice to me in the past, and I did owe her a solid, so about 10 to 2, I grab my keys and my concealed carry and leave the house. I get to the bar at around 2:05, and she's sitting outside on a bench by the doorman. I pull into the parking lot, which was pretty empty since the bar's closed, and I assume that the cars remaining were the workers who had yet to leave. I get out of the car and start walking to Claire, who's kinda slumped over. I was hoping she wasn't passed out drunk, and when I got to her, the doorman asked me if I was her ride. I told him yes, showed my ID for proof, and what he said next was of some concern. He kinda pulls me in and says, I'll leave out where I interjected and just write what he said. Hey, I was supposed to leave when we closed, but I have a strong feeling your friend was roofied. She's been on the porch drinking all night, and some guy kept hovering around her. I assumed it was a boyfriend or whatever, but she never turned to talk to the guy. She was either drinking or chatting with other girls around her. Well, anyways, she chugged her last drink, came up to me and told me you would be coming to pick her up, and she asked me if she could sit by me. She told me she felt very dizzy and sick. I told her, sure, hoping she just drank too much, and she passed out right after she sat down. After that, I couldn't see that guy anymore, but I didn't want to take any chances. So, visibly concerned, I thanked the guy profusely, and he even helps me carry Claire to my car. Midway to carrying her, she's kind of coming to, talking like someone just waking up after a surgery. That really groggy, not knowing where they are, nonsense kind of talking. I don't remember exactly what she was talking about, but I'm sure if I wasn't on high alert about her possibly being drugged, it was some funny shit. So we got her buckled in. I thank the guy again, and he just says he hopes she gets home safe. So now, hoping my friend's only stupid drunk and not drugged, I start driving to her house. The whole time I'm trying to keep an eye on her and an eye on the road. She's now snoring asleep, which puts me at ease a bit. But about halfway to her house, my fuel light comes on. Cursing the fuel economy of a sports car, I pull into the next gas station. It's one of those small gas stations that doesn't have a 24-hour store, so I'm on extra high alert while I start to pump gas. The gas station is about a block from the freeway, and right at the corner of the intersection. The street itself is pretty dark, with lonely lampposts shining very pitiful lights at large intervals. I get that really dead feeling, like this place is just abandoned. To give an idea of positioning, because this is important, the gas station is at the corner of the intersection. The storefront would be facing south, and we were right in front of it, where the pumps were. The east would be where there were air pumps for tires and parking spaces, and the north would be a diesel fuel pump right behind the store accessible from the street behind the gas station. I drive a Corvette, so the filler's on the rear end of the car, and I'm leaning against the rear looking around. To my left, I hear this weird metallic scraping sound, so I turn and see this guy about 15 to 20 feet from me, come around the corner dragging a long metal pipe on the ground. I immediately sense that I'm in a possibly dangerous situation now. The guy looks almost possessed, but he's not looking at me, rather like he's trying to look into my car. I'm on the defensive, but hope I can get him to leave, so I call out, "Hey, everything alright?" Without looking at me, he answers back, "You took my girlfriend from me. I'm here to take her back." Now he turns to look at me and he's got blood in his eyes. Before he begins to take a step though, I start yelling, hoping it'll get him to back off. I'm a little over 6 feet tall and not exactly skinny, but not exactly bulky either, but I have a really deep voice. "Back the fuck off, you don't have to die," I start yelling louder. I'm pretty sure my voice cracked, because A, I'm scared shitless. No amount of self-defense classes and time at the range prepares you emotionally for this kind of situation. B, even though I carry, I'm really against violence, and killing someone is not something I want to do. C, did I mention I'm fucking scared? Anyway, in a panic the fucker throws the pipe at me. It whizzes by, thankfully not towards my car but to my right, and I dive behind my car for cover. I have no idea if he has a gun himself or what, but I was going to put some kind of cover between me and him. And by the time I kneel up and aim over the rear of my car, he's booked it. I hear a car door slam and tires screech, and he launches off the curb on the east side of the lot and is tearing down the road, swaying all over the place. In my own panicked hurry, I pull the pump out of the car, screw the cap on, and tear out of there myself. Claire, however, is still passed out in my car, and now I'm afraid because I'm convinced she'd been drugged and we were followed by that guy. Me being more concerned about her earlier and keeping on the road, I must have not noticed being followed. The whole way back to her house, I'm wary of any car that's behind me. I'm also driving very aggressively, red speeding like a jackass. And when I get to Claire's neighborhood, I circle a separate block that's not hers 4 times to make sure no one followed me. When I was satisfied, thinking I wasn't being followed anymore, I pulled up to her house and tried to shake her awake. She's doing that groggy and waking up stuff from before, but now she's able to get up. I'm able to walk her, thankfully. I was worried I was going to have to call an ambulance if she didn't wake up. And I got her keys from her bag. I managed to walk her inside. At this point, she's kind of coming around, asking me what's going on and where she is, etc. I tell her she's home and get her to lie down. She's completely lost looking, and her eyes start welling up. She clings to me and starts sobbing. She's still very out of it, but I'm guessing she realizes something bad was going on or attempted on her. I was able to get her to lie down and get her to sleep. I wrote a note for her which pretty much said, "Hey, I'll be in the next room. We're going to the hospital in the morning to get you checked out." Fast forward to the morning, she's sick as a dog, and after she expelled some demons from her stomach, I drove her to the hospital where she got tested and treated. I still shudder to think what might have happened had I not had my CCW with me. I do know martial arts, but it's not something I want to take against a crazy person with a pipe. Claire still doesn't remember much from the night, except calling me and wanting to sit next to the doorman. My advice for you guys on this sub, either be with friends you trust when you go out, or at least be vigilant if you're by yourself. That night could have ended badly in 1,000 different ways, but thankfully, even luckily, everyone made it out safe. Edit. For anyone interested, I mentioned below about her hospital visit. They did a urine test and found traces of rohypnol, roofies. In the days after, we went to the bar and let them know what happened. I gave as good a description as I could of the guy. Claire decided against filing a police report, and I respectfully went with her wishes. This is my first post to Reddit, and English isn't my first language, so apologies for any mistakes. At the age of around 6 to 7, I lived next door to an old, 60 or so year old man, Keith. He would often go running around the streets as he was very fit for his age. At the time, I lived with my grandmother. She was friends with him and would often invite him over for a cup of tea and to gossip. Things were fine for a little while, until one day I looked out of my window in my bedroom. From my window, I could see clearly into his garden. He was lying on a deck chair, masturbating. As I was a child, I didn't understand, of course. I assumed he didn't know I was there. The next day, I went to open the curtains in the morning and saw him doing the same, again. He looked up at me and smiled, then carried on. A few weeks later, with me not mentioning it to my nan, in case she thought I was lying about it, I continued to see him almost daily. I started to realize it wasn't right when I noticed he would make an effort to make me look, by doing things such as making loud noises outside and shouting my name. Soon after, it was my birthday. My nan invited him around to my party, as most of our neighbors had been invited too. I was alone in the kitchen getting a glass of water when I heard the kitchen door open and saw him walk in. He was wearing gold cycling shorts, which very clearly showed off everything. At the time, I thought it was just a fashion choice, but now I see that he wanted people to look. He said to me, "If you were my daughter, I would never let you leave the house looking so sexy. Thank you for keeping our secret." I don't remember my exact answer, but it was something along the lines of, "Sexy is a bad word." He started to pull down his shorts, and I panicked and called my nan. She rushed in to see him standing over me, quickly pulling his shorts up and with an erection. Thankfully, I never saw him masturbating after this. My nan called the police and he got a warning. In my opinion, this wasn't enough for what he did. I lived next door to him for another 6 years. So creepy fitness neighbor, let's not meet.